Another day, another resort. This is another Disney Vacation Club resort, and I'm looking forward to showing you around. But there's a lot to talk about with this resort. By the way, welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking in, as I mentioned, to Disney's Old Key West, a much loved resort, a resort I've stayed at before and gave a terrible review, but you know, sometimes you got to give places more than one chance, and that's what we're doing today. So I actually just went to go check in at the front desk. I know that I always talk to you guys about checking in through My Disney Experience, and I always do, except over the past, I don't know, couple months, My Disney Experience has been kind of weird. In fact, even though I've checked in already and they gave me my room number, you can see the app is not working. So there have been some weird things going on. So I've been checking in at the front desk like I did today, and got my information. So we are in building 37 out on Old Turtle Pond Road. Let's make our way over and we'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts and feelings when it comes to staying here again. So let's get over there. Okay, finally made it into the room. This has been a little bit more difficult than I thought it would have been. And I don't know what the challenge is right now, but I do want to tell you a little bit about it because that's the whole experience. So I basically have been running into problems with my Disney Experience app in terms of checking in. I don't know what's going on with that. There was an update to the app a couple months ago, and things have been acting a little funky ever since. And I did communicate that to the front desk today, because what's been happening with some of these recent reviews is I've been going to the front desk and checking in there just to make sure that they know, hey, I've checked in, but I can't get any of the information about check-in via My Disney Experience. And this is the first time that they were like, turns out you did online check-in. You could just go directly to your room. It's ready and everything. And I told them, like, yeah, I totally understand, but the app hasn't been working, and I explained it. And so she made note of that. So I don't know if that's something that other people have been experiencing and whether or not they've been communicating it to people who can actually do something about it. I know that this is the first time I did myself, but nonetheless, so made my way down here to the room. It was quite the drive to get down here. This is a big resort. We'll tour around it later, so stay tuned for that. But once I got to the room, my Magic Band didn't work, my Disney Experience didn't work, and I was like, am I gonna have to go all the way back to the front desk to get this resolved? But fortunately, I did close out my app, restart my phone, and I was able to get in. But I was standing outside this door with all my bags going, please don't make me walk these back to the Jeep. Fortunately, it all worked out. But now we're in here. Let's look for the air conditioning and crank it up. It is 72. 72 in here. That is way too warm. Like I said, I do want to talk to you about kind of everything. So let me get myself situated a little bit. We'll sit down and we'll chat. So like I said, this is not my first time staying at Disney's Old Key West Resort. I originally stayed here, maybe 2 years ago now, and it was not the most enjoyable experience for me. Now, it was just a short stay. I think I was only staying for like 1 or 2 nights, but I wanted to experience the resort that so many people are so fond of. I mean, this is the original Disney Vacation Club resort, and as a Disney Vacation Club member, it only seems right to have stayed here at least once. But I had a few major problems with this resort during my last stay. And while I'm not gonna go over all of them, because you can go back and watch some of our previous videos on Old Key West to see what I had to say, I will note a few very specific things so that you kind of have an idea of what my thought process was. So first and foremost, I requested to be close to the lobby because I did not have a car and I knew I was going to transfer to another resort. So it was a split stay situation, and I actually was put in a room that was at the end of a road. So really, really far from the lobby. It was like a 15-minute walk with my luggage to the lobby. And at the time, no one was doing the like golf cart rides from the lobby to your room, which sometimes happens. I didn't see any driving around today, so I don't know if it's just because no one is making their way to their room right now, but sometimes at big resorts like this, Saratoga Springs is another great example, they will put your luggage and your family on a golf cart and then ride you out to where it is that you needed to be. But this was during the time when a lot of safety precautions were in place and they didn't do that. So it was a really long walk with all my bags all the way to the end of a road, which kind of soured the experience a little bit. And I had no idea how big this resort was at the time. And it is really big. It's sprawling. In fact, here in a few days when we do a tour of the resort, you'll see that we actually do it driving around versus our normal tours where we walk around the resort, because we would literally be walking around all day long. It is massive. But there was that. And then I did have my first really negative experience with a room inspection, which we also talked about on the channel. Not really a great experience for me. And finally, the biggest complaint, and we'll have to see if it turns out to be a problem this trip, was the sound. This is one of the loudest resorts I've ever stayed at, if not the loudest resort that I ever stayed at. And the reason is because of the ways that these rooms are set up. So we have this room, which is a deluxe studio, and then you can't really see it, but if I twist you this way, there's a door here, and this door opens up into a one-bedroom villa. And if this room is set up the same way as the room that I stayed in last time, it actually is the kitchen of that one-bedroom villa right here, which makes it a really, really loud environment right off of this bedroom. And that was the problem that I had last time with this resort. I also had some issues, kind of scooch you this way, with the privacy out on the balcony. I'm not sure if it's going to be the case with this room. I haven't even done a full room tour yet. We've just kind of sat down to talk about this. So like I said, I can give you an idea of where my head's at, but the balcony looked right out into the kitchen of the neighboring room. So we didn't go out there. It just didn't feel like an appropriate space to be, especially because that family was spending so much time in the kitchen. So it was a really odd situation. I didn't really love it. And there were other things about the room that I didn't really love. And I'm not entirely sure if I'll feel the same way now. Like I said, I just stepped in here, but you'll hear all about it not only in our full room tour, but also in our room review that will be coming within the next week to the channel. And like I said, I don't want to go into a full like room review right now because we're right at the start. We just got started with this, but I feel as though this is one of those resorts that is almost a little bit more nostalgic, and that's why people love it as much as they do versus the actual size of the room, practicality, quality of the resort. So that's just my thought process when it comes to this resort. I don't necessarily think it's as good as people think it is, but because they've been members here for so long, it's the original Disney Vacation Club resort, that kind of fuels the way people feel. But like I said, we'll have to see. I'm really interested to see what Russ has to say about this resort, because last time it was just me who stayed here and I formulated all these opinions on my own, but Russ is actually joining me later tonight, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he has to say. But all right, that's enough for now. I'm gonna do a room tour, get myself settled, and I'll catch you here in a bit. All right, so I just wrapped up doing our room tour and then I spent some time working, and I wanted to just take a second and give you my first impressions of this room, having combed through it real quick, because here in a bit, Russ will be making his way over and I want to hear what he has to say as well. So as someone who has stayed here before and someone who has never been in one of these rooms before, you're gonna get both perspectives. Having stayed here before, I will say that nothing has changed since then. I don't remember the exact date when I stayed here, but it's been some time though, probably about 2 years. And It's exactly the same. Exactly the same as the last time I was here. Same furniture, same setup. The room has not been updated, or the rooms, I should say, have not been updated. And it doesn't feel updated. They actually feel quite outdated. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, if it's something that I just said in the room tour, but a lot of this stuff, not just the carpet, but things like the phone, the fact that there are no updated outlets with USB and USB-C, stuff like that just feels kind of outdated. The room also feels a little bit, what's the word? Because it's not just outdated. It's not like it just looks old. It's like unkept, broken down. It needs a renovation. This hotel definitely needs an update. For example, like this clothesline is broken. And another thing that catches my eye, of course we're gonna look at all this in the room tour, but these safes over here, the safe has a key. Every other safe is digital right now. So it's stuff like that that just doesn't feel like this place has been kept up, you know? It does feel like it needs some love, but that's just my thought process. I do still feel like these rooms, while they are bigger, they're some of the biggest DVC villas, they're just, the space isn't used well. I think it's because of the shape of these rooms. So while this room might have the square footage to be called the biggest Disney Vacation Club deluxe studio on property, it's like, it's wasted space. So much wasted space. And so it really doesn't feel big at all, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Russ has to say when he gets here. And we will chat about that when he does. Also, I was taking a look at this map so that I can just see where we are here at this resort. And I wanted to take a second to show you the layout of this resort. I know we've been doing this recently, so I thought you might be interested in getting eyes on the map that they give you when you check in. Here it is. It's just a paper map, nothing on the back. And it's got some basic information. Down here is our room number, so building 37, first floor, and this is the actual room number here. But this is the layout of the resort. So let's see. Over here, right here, is where we have check-in, concierge. This is also where you're gonna find your food and your main feature pool. So you can see it's way up in this corner. And then there are some buildings over here where you can stay. And then as you can see, it kind of like really stretches out. Last time I was staying over here, which is quite the distance from this main area, which was kind of my gripe last time. And it does go across the golf course, so you have to walk this direction to get back to the main area. This time we are staying down here. We're in building 37. So getting back to the front means kind of going all the way around here, all the way up this road, all the way down this road, across this bridge, and then over here. It's quite the drive, actually. I didn't time it. Of course, we will tour this entire place. I'm going to take you on a drive across the entire resort. You can see it's best to do that via a drive though, because it is really large, and it's larger than it looks. While you could easily walk this, it's not necessarily like you would need a car. It's not going to happen quickly, so you do need to prepare yourself for that if you're going to be at this resort. And it's also not the best resort for walking around. In fact, I don't think it was built with the intention for you to be able to walk around with ease. It was built to be like a neighborhood. So there are a lot of roads, lots of parking right outside your room, no matter where you're staying. But there's not a ton of like sidewalks. And there are areas throughout the resort where there are like sidewalks in some areas, but not in other areas. So you might find yourself walking in the street, which isn't going to be great for everyone. Again, that was another thing that I mentioned during my last stay. And I do think that you'll see that as we wander around the resort in a future video. Like I said, it's such a big resort that we're not gonna do it today. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. But anyway, like I said, I'm gonna wait for Russ to make his way out here and I'll let him give you his first impressions as well. All right, you're here.
I've arrived.
Now it's time
Barely.
to get your first impressions of this resort. Kind of. We've been here before. You haven't driven here before though. But especially your first impressions of the room. So, what do you think?
So getting here was rough. And I say that loosely. It was a long drive to get back here, which I thought was interesting. The front gate only has one way in.
That's true. Normally, for those of you who aren't familiar, the resorts here at Walt Disney World, they have two ways in. So there's two lanes, if you will, to get through the front gate. One is going to be closest to the gate guard, and that's going to be where you actually approach the gate guard and you're going to give them your ID or whatever. The second lane usually has like a Magic Band booper, and you'll boop your Magic Band or your ticket or whatever to get in. The buses tend to go through that second lane as well. Basically, if you've already checked in, you're already here, you go through that second lane. This one does not have that. It's just one.
Yeah, and I have personal experience seeing it get backed up. To get in here, and or if you're trying to go to like Saratoga Springs, sometimes you're stuck waiting because of that gate backup.
Yeah.
Because it just funnels in and there's only one way in. This room's a little tucked in the back. This is actually almost to where we go exploring from Saratoga Springs.
Yeah.
So sometimes we'll go for runs at Saratoga Springs, running the grounds, and it actually comes all the way out over back here. And so we've been back here before a couple times.
We're also not near a pool.
Are we not?
No, so, well, I've got my map. I showed them the map a little bit earlier today. But if you look...
Is that a pool? No, that's not even a pool.
So here's where we're located, and the pool is over here. So we have to go all the way over to here to access our, like, local pool. And then the main pool
This is a good 5-minute drive.
is, yeah, like a 5-minute drive.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. But anyways, so that's that. But so getting here once I parked, very confusing. So the signs pointed me in to the causeway area of the building. Walked into it, only to find out that I had to leave the building to keep going and then come back in. And then I was here.
It is a little confusing. I myself was a little confused because of the way that the signs kind of point you. And we'll show you the signs. They're a little confusing, especially the layout of these buildings. They're laid out like a house, not like a hotel. And the signage is kind of like a hotel, not like a house. So it's confusing. You can find yourself walking like into an area that's someone's door, and then you're like, oh, that's not right. And then you have to leave and go back. So I did get a little turned around myself when trying to find the room.
That was number 2. Number 3, my Magic Band doesn't work.
Mine doesn't either.
So how did you even get in?
With my phone app.
So yeah, so that's a little rough, especially if you're a person who doesn't actually have a smartphone.
Especially if you're not someone who drove here and you walked all the way back here, which is something that sometimes happens. I know that sometimes they have golf carts to bring you back here, but that's not always the case. It depends. My mistake that I made today, and if I did it all over again, I would have changed this, is when she said to me, do you want a physical key? I would have said yes.
Yeah.
And I would have gotten a key set up, even though I had my Magic Band.
Yep.
So,
We'll get one tonight.
yeah, I'm gonna get one tonight because my Magic Band is not working.
So yeah, so that was my experience getting to the room. Now entering the room, it's very outdated. This reminds me of the time we went to Saratoga Springs in 2019. That round of renovations
Yeah.
of that time frame.
We weren't doing room tours at the time. Like, we didn't have the channel at the time.
No.
But the room was really, really rough. It was really beat up and very outdated. It just had felt like it had been limping along.
Overall, though, I will say, although outdated, the room seems to be very clean.
Absolutely.
Definitely beat up.
Yeah.
There's nicks and scuffs all over the place. However, like, the carpet looks good. I think this is the first Disney hotel room I've been in that doesn't have a couch.
This is the first deluxe studio that we've been in that doesn't have a couch.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
And one thing that we've mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier to you or if it was in a room tour, so bear with me here for a second, but there's only seating for 2 in this room that sleeps 4. So the table only has seating for 2, the balcony or patio only has seating for 2, but this room sleeps 4.
So yeah, so that's my initial impressions thus far. Although very clean, just outdated. And I will say this, the floor plan shows that it's dated. I think you told me this is the largest deluxe studio in all on Disney property. However, it's not all usable space. Although it is nice. It's nice and airy. You know, I love the fact that we have a ceiling fan.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, that's
There it
huge
is.
to me. TV's outdated. The fact that we have a DVD player and stuff like that.
No USB-C or anything like that.
No, nothing like that. Like I said, it's way overdue a renovation, and that is really where it's at. I mean, the bathroom's nice, everything's nice and clean. I have a serious problem from my standpoint sitting on this balcony and being in literally eyesight of the adjoining room.
That's the kitchen too.
I have a serious problem with that.
I know, me too.
That is unacceptable. And it is just the way the layout is, and there's nothing they can do about it.
This is why the last time we stayed here, I was like, if you're going to stay in this room, don't get a deluxe studio, get a 2-bedroom villa. So you have the whole floor.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
We'll talk more about that in our review.
But here's the thing. This was 6 points.
That's the thing.
This was 6 points.
Which, for those of you who aren't Disney Vacation Club members and you're like, what does that mean? By comparison, a DVC room of this type would cost anywhere from 16 to 20,
Yeah,
maybe
something like
24, depending on where you're staying and the time of year. But
Oh.
this is half as many points as a tower studio over at Riviera,
You literally can stay at Disney twice as long.
if you stayed in this room. So that might be a reason to make the sacrifice. Like, all the little things that you don't necessarily like are doable because
So, and
it's a
here's
big,
my thing.
pretty big room.
For the amount of points you have to spend to be at Riviera, I'd rather just stay here because I can stay here for twice as long. And I wanted to see how close the Disney transportation was. So it's 3 buildings away. So it's a little bit of a walk.
It's a little bit of a walk.
A little bit of a walk.
Yeah.
And that's 1 stop for all of this.
Yeah.
Whew. My concern is like how much of this is like Saratoga Springs, where sometimes if you're at the end of the route, you can't even get on the bus because it's already full.
It's a good question.
So, but then again, a lot of people drive here, so are a lot of people driving to the parks? Or
It's definitely a different environment here. That's definitely something that I noticed the last time I was here, and we'll
Yeah.
see if it's a different environment today as well once we get out and kind of check the place out a little bit more and go grab our food and stuff. But I do think that people who are here aren't necessarily doing the parks in the same way as someone who's at an All-Star or at another resort.
yeah. And for someone who, again, when I'm on Disney vacations, I'm never at the room. So the fact that this is 6 points, I don't care that the space isn't completely usable. I'm okay with the fact that it's outdated because it's 6 points. No, I'm quite content with it overall.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. For the price, I'm very content with it. I can't complain.
Yeah. But anyway, we have to think about what we're going to have for dinner.
Yep.
And we'll check in with you guys a little bit later. So we're making our way out to the parking lot now, and I just wanted to show you the sign that confused us a little bit right here. You can see it says that this is building 37, and it almost shows there's our number 3716. It almost looks like we should be going in this way, but no, we actually have to go way down that way. You can see there are other little signs, but they can be a little bit confusing, especially with the shape of these buildings. And I feel like while it's not a big deal once you know where the room is, it's that part of your journey where you're trying to figure out where your room is that things get a little bit confusing, frustrating, you know? All right, it is a little bit later in the evening. Russ ducked out for a bit, and it is thundering and lightning like crazy outside right now. Let me see if I can show you. It is absolutely wild out there. Yikes! And it is super loud in here, which I mean, when there's a storm right here, yeah, it's definitely gonna be loud. But anyway, I just wanted to wrap things up and tell you that we had a fantastic day. We did get some dinner, and then we've been talking a little bit about the room and the resort and just kind of collecting our thoughts, which we do a whole lot of every time we do one of these reviews. But this room is a particularly interesting case because it's a place we've stayed before, and it's also a place that people talk really highly of, and we have so much to say. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any of that. Of course, we did talk about so much today, but we want to really give you the nuts and bolts, the good, the bad, and the ugly about this entire place. And don't forget, there's so much more to see and talk about. So we're gonna tour the resort, we're gonna give you a look at it, we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the dining options, all here in the next week. So make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss that. Also, if you like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos, and let us know in a comment down below what your first impression of this hotel is. Do you like what you're seeing? Do you not really care for it? Tell us all about it in a comment. Like I said, that's all for now. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.